In this report we will talk about the impact steady state exercise has on the body and try to back up our predictions by conducting tests under certain controls in a lab. Steady state exercise is the balance between the energy required by working muscles and the rate of oxygen and aerobic ATP production. Example of a steady state exercise would be a jog for around 20 to 40 minutes on a treadmill without increasing intensity. It's important to maintain intensity, otherwise exercise may change to become anaerobic or a much higher level of aerobic exercise. Consequently, this would change the balance between the energy required and oxygen to the working muscles. They should remain below the anaerobic threshold and is associated with aerobic exercises like running, swimming, cycling, and rowing. I predict that heart rate will plateau due to sufficient oxygen supply to the muscles and nutrients at this intensity. Breathing will increase up to a steady state where the supply of oxygen and expulsion of carbon dioxide meets the demands of exercise. Stroke volume will initially increase to mid-level output because of low-level intensity to exercise. Cardiac output will increase from rest, but the increased rate will depend on the expertise of the performer as an untrained performer. Cardiac output will increase much faster and higher compared to a trained performer. Blood pressure, it will increase initially, then decrease as arterioles vasodilate to aid blood flow to the working muscles. Thermoregulation, temperature will increase as it becomes more viscous and increases the efficiency of oxygen transport. Venous return will also increase as the heart rate and cardiac output increase in correlation with intensity to the exercise. Starling's law, EDV will increase slightly, but ESV, the amount of blood in the left ventricle after the contraction phase, will decrease because heart rate is not fast enough. Energy system, ATP production will not be needed, neither will creatine phosphate system, but aerobic glycolysis will be needed, because it has a low intensity exercise for a longer duration. Respiratory system, breathing rate will increase gradually. There will be an increase in gas exchange, and as this is because CO2 needs to be removed from muscles. Tidal volume will increase slightly because of the acquisition of the RCC, the ICC, which will stimulate the contraction of the sternocleidomastoid to bring the rib cage up and out, further increasing the thoracic cavity. Oxygen dissociation curve, the amount of oxygen released during exercise will be much greater, and therefore the hemoglobin level will be much lower. So our method, pre-exercise we measured the performer's heart rate, blood pressure, oxygen saturation, and the percentage of hemoglobin, also known as lactate, in the body. A small finger prick was used to draw blood for the lactate, and we used a bore grating to decide how hard they were perceived to be working at. The breathing rate was calculated by counting how many breaths the performer took in 30 seconds. Then the sum is doubled to calculate breathing rate in a minute. exercise. Before the performer could start the test, they had to do a 2 minutes spot to warm up their muscles to avoid injury during the test. A small rest period was allowed before initiating the test to improve the validity of the test results. The test of the steady-state exercise lasted 20 minutes with heart rate, blood pressure, O2 saturation, pulse rate and breathing rate taken every 2 minutes to get measurements reflected on the intensity of the exercise, and the lactate taken every 6 minutes. After the 20 minutes period, heart rate, O2 saturation, pulse rate and breathing rate were measured at a post-steady state exercise at 2 minutes and then again at 4 minutes. This is to see how the body reacts after the steady state exercise and how it recovers. Heart rate initially increases and 2 clients meet their highest heart rate from the test within the first 10 minutes. Maximus at 187 beats per minute and some at 183. Between 6 and 10 minutes, heart rate plateaued at around 170 beats BPM, as sufficient nutrients were going to the working muscles. From the results we can determine that the 11th minute the heart rate decreased on Summer and Max because they were not working in the correct training zone and intensity, and therefore could not sustain the intensity. Josh's heart rate initially decreased and gradually increased. His heart rate peaked at 18 minutes. At 20 minutes of exercise halted and heart rate dropped on average of 12 beats per minute and continued to decrease. We cannot disregard data here, like Josh's pre-heart rate reading, as he is still recovering from the warm-up. And this may have been intense as we don't have any data on the warm-up, and the warm-up was not analysed. Normally it should have an anticipatory rise and increase rapidly within the first 4 minutes, and then plateau until the 20th minute, where exercise stops and recovery period starts. We expect heart rate to maintain rate for several seconds after exercise, and then gradually decrease back to the resting heart rate. All O2 saturation started above the threshold of 98%. For Josh and Summer, it plateaued from the 2nd minute to the 6th. For Summer, it dropped to 97% in the 14th minute of exercise and did not drop for the remainder of the test. Between the finish of the test and before the post 2 minutes after exercise, O2 saturation increased for Summer. Maximus data is more sensitive. Within the 6 minutes of exercise, O2 saturation depleted to 92% and then rose again to 97% for 2 minutes before decreasing to the lowest saturation score of the clients to 84% in the 12th minute. After exercise had stopped from max, O2 saturation continued to decrease from 99 to 97%. Even after 4 minutes of exercise, the only data we can eradicate is Max's post 2 and 4 readings, because in comparison to other clients' data, it is irregular, as it decreases rather than increases as exercise stops. The normative data show an initial decrease of 2% change from the first reading and stay that way, and should never be below 90% for the whole duration of the test. Due to the equipment we had, we were only able to get readings for Maximus only up to the 12th minute. In the systole phase, the pressure initially decreased from 145 milligrams of mercury to 99 at the 6th minute of exercise. It then rose to 99 milligrams of mercury to 211 with 4 minutes. This was the highest reading recorded. After this peak, it decreased down to 180 in the 12th minute. In the diastole phase, there is a smaller range of results compared to the systole. However, it did also decrease to begin with, on average by 30% until the 4th minute, whereby pressure increased close to 75. Similarly, it also decreased after it reached its peak and continued to decrease until its last reading in the 10th minute. Normative data suggest that diastole pressure should increase initially and then gradually decrease. Systole pressure, on the other hand, should increase with exercise intensity, so in theory should plateau once it has reached optimum pressure. Ball Creighton. To begin with, max perceived exercise to be 8 in the first 2 minutes after the initial reading. And increased by 6 with 2 minutes after to 14. It plateaued between 4 and 6, and for some it was 4 to 8 minutes before both increasing on average by 1.5 after that. Normative data suggest that there should have a positive correlation between the duration of exercise and the perceived working intensity of the performer throughout the exercise, and a sudden drop after exercise has stopped. Breathing rate initially increased at the start of exercise by an average 12 beats. As exercise continues, breathing rate plateaus for 6 minutes. Between 6 and 12. Normative data suggests that this is correct, and it should happen as performers have reached submaximal intensity. Breathing rate decreases by an average of heart rate post-exercise as tidal volume increases. We can't disregard Josh's 6-minute data, as external factors like motivation may have occurred, or was told to readjust his intensity as his results were analysed by peers in the lab. Breathing rate gradually decreases there. Lactate rose from 0 during pre-exercise to 16.2% acid concentration, reaching a peak of 17.4% at 10 minutes from max. All performers had an increase in lactate compared to the pre-exercise. 2 of the 3 all had increases on average of 14% in the first 2 minutes. After the 2 minutes was up, the performers' lactate still increased in increments. However, after 10 minutes, all performers began to decrease their lactate levels through the halfway stage.